afternoon. My name is Lou LaCroix, Commander of American Legion Barron Scribner Post 6 here in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I'm here today with a World War II veteran, Mr. Robert Smith, and he served in the U.S. Army in the 45th Infantry Division in Germany. Bob, if I may call you Bob?
Sure.
Where were you born and when were you born?
I was born in Wisconsin, start with there.
Okay.
In Richland County in 1926, and on a dairy farm.
Oh, you were a dairy farmer?
Right.
Oh, cool.
My parents were.
Your parents were?
Yeah.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I had 3 sisters and another brother.
Very good. Well, obviously you said you were working on a dairy farm. Your family owned a dairy farm. Were there any members, male or female, that in your family, relatives, relations that served in the military?
Yes, I had an uncle that was killed in World War I.
Oh, I see. So you've got a good family background of history, military history.
And the sad part of it was, too, it was the last day of the war over there.
November 11th?
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. Such is war.
Yeah.
And you went into the service. How did you enter the service? How did you go?
I was drafted.
You were drafted?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Where did you go for your basic training?
Down to Fort McClellan, Alabama.
Okay. And how was that training? I mean, I know it was a lot different than what the training we went through.
It was a rigorous training. Matter of fact, that it put you through about everything you'd want to bump up against the combat to, except the artillery.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's always a tough one.
Yeah.
Did you have any specialized training, or were you just?
No, just as a rifleman.
You were a rifleman, as we call them, or as you call them too, also grunts.
Yeah.
How did you adapt to military life? The physical aspects, the regimen, the barracks, food, and all that stuff.
Well, when I first went in, of course, I was 18. When I first went in, and the first week or so was kind of rough. I, hadn't been around the world too much at the present time, and then that sudden change like that, but I got over it in a hurry.
Well, that's good. That's good. Now, when you served with the 45th Infantry Division, what was your unit and where did you serve while you were in the service over in Europe?
Well, we landed in Le Havre, France, and then we were trucked up to the front lines from there through France and to Germany. And I started out with the 45th Infantry that night in the middle of the night, darker than you know what, and you didn't know where he's going. And they started out there at Schaffensburg. And Schaffensburg was really a die-hard town because they didn't want to give up there, but it was, and the town was really darn near leveled when we left there. And then from Schaffensburg, it kind of tapered off because that was one of the largest towns heading towards Munich, and we were more or less small farms that we didn't have a lot of resistance at. Mm-hmm. But they all had to be cleared, which took time. And then from the smaller farms, we ended up in Nuremberg, which was that's one of Hitler's favorite towns that he really started out in. Mm-hmm. Years back. And that was around April 9th we entered Nuremberg. And it was not an easy town to take at all because the town was built where one building had a tunnel from one to the other. Uh-huh. And you'd take a block or two, and once you had your snipers in the back of you, uh-huh, and in front of you. And so that you had to be on guard all the time there. And it was I don't know, it took us about a week to really get that town settled down.
Nuremberg?
Yes, Nuremberg.
So you saw quite a bit of action between Aschaffenburg and Nuremberg.
Yeah.
Were there any other towns that your unit or your division liberated?
Yes, from Nuremberg we were heading towards the it was Munich. It was the next town that they were supposed to take, and we were not aware of what was between Munich and us at the time. Mm-hmm. And that's when we bumped into the Dachau concentration camp there.
Oh.
And we were, the 157 Regiment was lucky because we went through it fast. Just cleared it, got the heck out of there, and headed on for Munich, which we were supposedly to take. But the people, the regiment that was left back, they had an awful mess to clean up.
I'm sure.
There was over 31,000 people executed in that camp in Dachau. And like I say, the stench there was just about unbearable. Mm. But and it was an experimental place too on humans. That was a sad part of it. They just experimented on humans. Oh, wow. How much could they take and things like that? How much disease?
How did that well, you said you went through there fast, but how did that affect you emotionally toward the rest of your combat? Did it embitter you more, or?
Well, yes and no. Because fortunately, we were anticipating towards the end of the war. I mean, we knew things were tapering off somewhat. And so we just kept on going, I guess. That's about what we did. We were concentrating on what was ahead of us again. Yeah. So, but I feel sorry for the regiment that was left back to help those people out in Dachau, because they had to give them food, water, everything, to get them clothing, and because that was in early April, and it's still cool over there yet. Excuse me.
That's right.
And that was controlled by the SS troops over there.
Oh.
Yeah.
That says the whole thing in a nutshell.
Yeah, it does.
It does. Now, friendships. Did you take time to make good friends with your other members of your platoon, your squad?
Oh yes.
And have you kept in touch with them?
No. One guy did. Was from Pulaski, Wisconsin, by Green Bay. But we didn't. We were replacement troops in there, and there are troops that were over there for 3 years, and those are the ones that I think more or less got to know each other. But then again, you didn't want to get too close to them either, because you're here today and gone tomorrow.
That was basically the same in Vietnam too.
Yeah,
You
I imagine
want to get close, but not too close.
Right.
That is understandable.
Yeah.
How were your communications to and from home?
Well, we got a chance to write a letter once in a while.
I'm sure with what you just explained to us, there wasn't much time for writing.
No, and he didn't have the material to write on either. And they did have mail call for us. Well, I think probably it was about a month that it went without any mail at all. But afterwards, things got settled down. It was easier. But
Hey, I'm sorry.
But from Dachau, we headed for Munich. And that town was 500,000 population. And fortunately for us and everybody, I think all the German troops and our troops, that they were giving up. And if we'd hit that town full force, I don't know how many lives have been lost.
Wow.
Because it's such a large town. And it just, when we took over then, we had occupation, and that was fun. You know, the order was put out right away that all civilians had to turn in their arms.
Right.
And they had a big room there. And you cannot believe how many beautiful weapons come in there. Shotguns, carvings on them, you know, all those fancy carvings. They would cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars over here.
Wow.
But they were destroyed. And then we had the problem of keeping the Russians in line, the Russian prisoners that the Germans took over there.
I imagine they were out for revenge.
Yes, they were. They had no time for the Germans at all. And they were stealing their bicycles. See, they just let go. They were out of their pens, what you call them, and at the time. And they steal the Germans' bicycles, and then the Germans would come to us and complain. And of course, another big thing was the reorganizing food situation for the people over there in Munich. They were very short on food. And we always had an interpreter go around with us to get the stuff that the Russians stole from the Germans back, you know, so we could understand what was going on back and forth. Had to have a Russian and a German interpreter with us.
That must have made for interesting.
It was.
Translate from Russian to German, German to English.
Yeah. And then we had to drag their bicycles back to them and stop other kind of riots that were going on in town too. I mean, it was our occupation there was actually a month after the war was over.
Oh, okay.
Well, getting back to when we were taking Munich, we had the darndest snowstorm on the 2nd of May over there, and it was one of these nice, wet, slippery ones. About the time you started to run and get going across the street, you were spinning in the snow. Then you wanted to stop, you couldn't stop. You'd slide right on by your place you go to stop at, and that was not good when you had snipers after you.
No, no. Was there a lot of resistance in Munich?
Not like there was in Nuremberg.
Not like
no, it cut down because then the war was over the 7th of May. We found out about it. I think that's the exact date of it. And of course, then they were bringing up actual food for us guys to eat instead of our K rations.
Oh my goodness.
The kitchens caught up with us.
Finally.
Yeah. And they were serving us, well, you probably got it too, and now I'm over there, is dehydrated foods.
We did, well, mostly we had C ration, but we did have some dehydrated.
Yeah.
And, once in a great while we had A rations, which is the food kitchens back in Standown, yeah.
Well, we had K rations back in too,
Okay.
yeah. But when our kitchens caught up with us, this was dehydrated carrots and eggs and stuff like that. Well, they had to be dehydrated to keep it, you know.
Right.
And the stuff that we did, you know, we had to get used to that too. And a lot of it was not eaten by the troops, by American troops. So the first night, they started dumping this stuff down the drain. And of course, you know, the smell of that food drew all those elderly people in. They were hurting for food. And they took it home with them, what they could carry. But then it multiplied the next night, the number of people being there. And when they went to dump that food, they got in a hell of a fight, the old-timers did. They wanted to take it away from the other one. They had their canes, you know. And man, they were swinging those canes like mad at each other.
Back in the days of the sword.
Yeah, because they were starving, some of those people.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And
Excuse me.
that settled that right there. From now on, after that, they had to dump it down the sewer in front of these people that were there waiting for it. Oh, that hurt.
I'm sure.
And they looked at us and couldn't understand why we were doing that. And I could understand them too.
Yeah.
They just, excuse me, they, nothing to do about it. But that got settled anyway. But after occupation a month in Munich, well, I forgot this about the 157th Regiment was the first one to the Hofbrauhaus, the beer hall.
Oh, okay.
They put their 157th insignia on there. But it was a very large beer hall.
They usually were.
Yeah.
They usually were.
Well,
Go ahead.
after we occupied Munich for a month, we were taken out to a small town outside of Munich called Steinach, probably about 15 kilometers. And we couldn't figure out why they were doing that, but anyway, we were out there, and they started doing us, keeping us close order drill again and stuff like that, keep us occupied. And they put us in a small, it was a schoolhouse. The company I was in anyway, and no beds, no nothing. And we just had to sleep on the floor. So we went to this barn, got some straw out of there and made kind of a straw bed for ourselves. That helped a little bit until we got packed down. But then we were sitting out there for about a month, getting more dissatisfied all the time.
I'm sure.
And of course the talk was then about how many points did you have to get out of the service.
Oh, that rotating thing.
Yeah, that was coming up. You had to have, I think it was about 85 points you could get out. But a lot of guys had 85 points over there. And some of us, we were lower, so we had to sweat it out. Well then, I think we stayed in Steinach probably about, that's probably about a month too. Then they shipped us out to, heading back home. And that was in Camp St. Louis at Reims, France.
Oh, okay.
And it was raining there constantly all the time. Of course, we slept in tents too. And they rained so much there, it got so much mud, they had to put plank down for us to walk on. And there they didn't have any small arms drill or anything like that, because there was no place really to do it. The mud was so bad. But all I had to do was eat Red Cross donuts. Oh, I don't think I've eaten a donut since then that made like that. You go down there, and of course they had this big bulletin board that was stationed. They would put up the different dates that the company and regiment was supposed to leave for USA again. And of course, that was one of the main things. Go down there and check that out. And of course, too, then they would post these times like 157, company so-and-so, you're supposed to leave on such and such a date. Boy, that was fine. Go back down there again 2 days later, it was be changed.
Oh, my. That in itself was disheartening.
Yeah, it would be changed, and I suppose they couldn't get the ships or something.
Yeah.
And so they'd wait a few days, and pretty soon it'd come up again. It's changed about 3 times, I think. And we began to wonder if he was going to make it or not. But finally we got on a boat and came back to, the name of that boat was a Sea Owl. And they were not big boats either. They were small Liberty ships, I think they called them then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And ended up in Baltimore then. That's where we landed back in the States again.
Oh, okay.
And then we had a 30-day leave. And while I was home on that 30-day leave, just about another week to go, that's when the war ended in Japan.
Oh, okay.
So I get a notice in the mail, another additional 15 days at home, which was happy.
Oh, yeah.
So it made me a total of 45-day leave.
Very good.
And then I had to go back to, went back to Fort McCoy. It was Camp McCoy then. Mm-hmm. And then they shipped me out to Camp Bowie, Texas. That's where the 45th all went back there again. And we were there for, I don't know, for a while before we were shipped out to Fort Lewis, Washington. Because the 45th Infantry was scheduled to go over to the Pacific. Mm-hmm. We were to remain active and be shipped out with some training, then go to the Pacific area.
Wow.
But that's why we were really happy, because when that war ended over there.
Sure.
And then after the war ended in the Pacific, then the 45th Infantry Division was inactivated. It started out as the Oklahoma National Guard. Back in the 20s, I think, late 20s. Huh. And of course, then it was out to Fort Lewis, Washington, which was a pretty nice state. We got to do several things out there as far as, recreation and stuff, like skiing up Mount Rainier and stuff like that. But then, got my discharge.
You were discharged from Fort Lewis?
Yeah. And happy to get out and glad to get home again. But still, it was a heck of an experience.
Well, like I've told other Second World War veterans, I personally thank you for doing your service to let me grow up in a free country. Many of the World War II veterans, well, the majority of them don't get the recognition that they're entitled to. But I do understand, finally, that you've received another medal just recently.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling our listeners about it?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I received the Bronze Star Medal here just about, I think it's the 2nd of April. It was about a week before Easter, anyway. And I received the smaller, I don't know what you call them, the smaller little emblems that you get to put on your jackets. I can't remember what you call them.
Oh, the little, yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay, oh, go on. And I got it on there, but I could understand why we didn't get it, because there was so much turmoil going on, transfer of different troops here and there. Mm-hmm. And maybe if I'd have stayed another 20 years in service, I'd have got it. But you had to receive the combat infantry badge previous,
right,
before you can get the Bronze Star. And I haven't received it yet, but I received notice that it would be issued.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And it was rightfully deserved, because the law was passed that any Second World War veteran who received the combat infantry badge after all these years are finally getting recognized. To get that combat infantry badge, the what you have to go through every day, every minute, you don't know when, like you said, you're here today, gone tomorrow. It could be a matter of minutes. But it took a long time, but you're finally getting it, and it's well deserved. I have a question. How did your wartime experience affect your civilian life? We'll say from when you got home to the present time, if in any way it did, which I'm sure it has.
Matter of fact, it didn't affect me hardly at all when I was young, as much as it's doing right now.
Is that right?
Yeah. I guess, you know, I received a book like this, I got another with the division, and I don't think I even looked at them when I got them. Thoroughly. I probably paged through them real fast, you know. And I put them in a drawer, and very seldom do I ever get them out until just the last couple of years.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's I guess the things that happened over there affected me more now than they did then.
Yeah. Well, that's understandable. What life lessons, this may sound like a poor question, but what life lessons did you learn from not only your military, but your combat service?
Well, it varies, I guess. There's times, I guess, you wish you hadn't gone through it.
Right.
And there's more times I'm proud of myself that I did.
Well, be
Go
proud
through it
of
over
yourself.
there. Yeah.
You've done, what you've done is something to be proud of. I know I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of every veteran, man or woman, that have served and were willing to make the supreme sacrifice for this country, this little island of freedom that we live in, that all too many people take for granted. And it's been said many times, and I'm sure you've heard this, that your generation was the greatest generation. And that goes without saying. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
Well, I guess that I know that I respect that good old American flag a lot more now than I did then.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was younger, well, you look at it, you don't stop to think when you're younger.
No.
It's just another flag flying.
Right.
But now, that flag's got a lot of meaning to me.
Well, you help keep it there with freedom to stand. It's a banner of freedom that you and your fellow veterans, not only in the 45th Division, but every man and woman that served in the European theater or in the Pacific theater, that preserved.
It, like I say, it affects me more now than it did when I was younger now. I guess I think more of some of my friends that went to service and never came back. I was born on this farm, raised on a farm there, and there's a farming community. And these farms were probably about a quarter of a mile apart, you know. I know there's one family that had 2 boys in service, and one was killed with the 103rd Infantry, and the other one was shot down he was in the Air Force, but he was in a concentration camp too, not a prisoner camp. And he saw him afterwards. He says, "I'm never so damn glad to see you guys coming ever, but before in my life is when you liberated us guys." Kind of stammered on that one, didn't I?
That's okay. It's an emotional thing. It's hard to be eloquent when there's something so deeply embedded in you, something that has affected you. The same with Vietnam veterans.
Yeah.
Well, not to the full extent of what you went through, but
getting back to some of my friends again that were actually 3 of them were killed in service. One was on Iwo Jima, and another one was another one in the Air Force that went down. He don't know what happened to him, but and there's more of them. There's 3 or 4 of them that came back too. One family had three sons in service.
They all came back?
Yes, they did.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. Well, I want to thank you, Robert, Bob, for taking the time and coming down here and being interviewed by me for our Washington, D.C. archives. Saying thank you just seems so hollow, because for what you've done, for what all the men and women during the Second World War did, both the Atlantic and the Pacific, was beyond something that I don't think I would be able to handle, even though I was in combat in Vietnam. But we had days that nothing happened. Where you were, it was a constant, it was a 24/7 conflict over there. And speaking for all the Vietnam veterans, to all of you World War II veterans, again, thank you so much for your time.
I forgot to mention one thing about the 45th Infantry. They had 511 combat days on the front line over there in Europe. It's hard to imagine that, isn't it?
511 straight combat days.
Yeah.
That boggles the imagination.
It does. And of course, they started, way back in Anzio and South Africa.
Yeah.
And all the way around there, it's just, I don't know how some of those guys took it, really. Well, some didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. They'd be out on guard and they'd lose it.
It was said in the Civil War that war is hell, but that, as you know, with your experiences in combat, is a big understatement.
Yeah.
It's more than hell. And to be able to relive that by doing an interview like this is hard. I know it's hard. I find it hard talking, even as an interviewer, because I can, as a history buff, I can picture in my mind the battles during the Second World War that I've seen on films. Of course, I wasn't there, but it's gratifying to be able to, and an honor to speak to you veterans.
Well, I've got a lot of respect for the guys in War. I'll tell you that. In Vietnam, I tell you, it sure was not easy over there either.
And we had a lot of trees.
You better believe it, and that makes it very difficult.
Yes, it does. Yes, it did.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. But it's something I felt. I volunteered, but it was something like something you felt you had to do because of this country, whether you were drafted or enlisted or whatever, or you were called up from a reserve or National Guard outfit. It was something that at first you said, oh, why did they do this to me? But then you say, like you said, when we were younger in school, we used to pledge allegiance to the flag, but it's something we had to say.
Yeah.
We didn't know, it was a flag. But in combat, in a combat situation or in a combat area, that flag brings a lot of meaning to you. And it just breaks my heart and hurts. And I'm sure that our veterans, our wonderfully fallen heroes from all conflicts, are turning over in their graves when they see some of this desecration of the flag. Mm-hmm. That's why we, as veterans, have to carry that torch and tell people the kids today go into their schools and tell them how to respect the flag and what the flag actually means and what it meant to men like yourself and myself to uphold the honor of that flag.
The thing that bothers me now, too, is another thing, is the boys that did not come back from over there, any of these wars. You know, here you and I are sitting here talking, free people, and enjoying life, families. But what kind of a medal did they get? I don't know. I hope someday they're rewarded for that.
Yeah.
Because that's the part that bothers me. And because I had 3 of my friends that didn't come back.
Yeah.
But I guess that's something that we just have to put up with. One thing, too, I didn't mention when in Munich, we were there over Memorial Day. They had a tremendous gathering in the square there in Munich, commemorating Memorial Day there.
Oh.
That soon afterwards.
Cool.
Matter of fact, the picture is in a book here. I can show it to you after if you want to take a look at it.
Sure.
But, no, I keep thinking of this many times about those guys that did not come back. Yeah. And especially, you know, you've seen them, they show pictures in Europe where all those crosses are lined up over there. Thousands of them.
Just over the rise over in Normandy, the graves that are across the road there. It's hard to imagine. You know, there's thousands of heroes there.
Yeah, it was quite different when we went back the second time over there just on a trip.
Yeah.
But,
well, when I was stationed over in, after Nam, I did some time in the States and I went to Germany. I made it a point, I was stationed in Darmstadt. I made it a point to go to Normandy.
Yeah.
And to walk on the same beach that my dad, God rest him, and thousands of other heroes stormed that beach. And you look up at where the gun emplacements were and you say, how did anybody survive that onslaught?
I don't know how they did.
I don't either.
I don't know how they did it.
My dad never spoke about it, but that's understandable. His war ended in the Battle of the Bulge when he was wounded. And
he was, huh?
Yeah. And they sent him home, and that was the end of his war. So, but Bob, again, thank you so very much.
My pleasure.
Not only for your service, but for being here and talking to us and to our viewers. And I want to say to our viewers, listen to these interviews. Listen to what these men are saying. And try to picture in your mind what they went through going to Munich, going through the concentrations of camp of Dachau or Auschwitz or whichever one their units were liberating, and how they liberated American prisoners that were over there that were prisoners of war for a couple, 3 years. Think about them and keep them constantly in your prayers, and pray for those, like Bob said, that didn't come home. Because I had friends from Vietnam that didn't come home. And pray for them. Pray for our men and women that are over in Iraq, Afghanistan, or any part of the world, that they're out there to preserve freedom. Just don't think about them. Pray for them, and pray for their families, who may, God forbid, never see them again. They need our prayers, and they need our support. Thank you very much.